One, two, three, four.
There's an art to shipping hot Cheetos to Kurdistan. You gotta like get the bag, you're gonna get a needle and poke tiny little holes in it so the air comes out, but you don't want to open it because then it'll get stale. Um, so yeah, you poke the tiny holes in it and then you put them in. You can fit a lot of hot Cheetos in a luggage. But that's also kind of like we can even think about it in the sense of just like lack of hot Cheetos is something it's something so small, but even just not having access to them, when you're abroad or when you're overseas we can have like a larger conversation about that and what else are people lacking, like real like basic human rights, right?
Yeah.
And resources and like running water and electricity. So I was born in Nashville in 95. My parents immigrated here as refugees in the late 70s. They were refugees in Iran for like 2 years before coming here. And so I was born here, and then I moved back to Kurdistan when I was in 6th grade. So 6th grade up until 11th grade, I was living in Kurdistan, southern Kurdistan, which is occupied by Iraq. I lived there for that chunk of my adolescent years, and definitely has created like a bunch of these imprints. I came back my senior year of high school. Oh my gosh, adjusting back, it was like moving to Kurdistan was definitely like a struggle, me trying to adapt and barely knowing, like my Kurdish was horrible when I first moved there and everything. And then when I came back to the US, my English was really bad and still is. I mean, I'm very insecure about my English language and Kurdish language. I feel like I haven't really committed to either language, but yeah, coming back and trying to like readjust and adapt to like American culture was also a struggle. And then art came into play and became my third place, where I feel like I am able to kind of create my own language. I'm able to create my own space. I feel like just always, living, back and forth, living between Kurdistan and America, and just being part of this diasporic community, I feel like I always had felt the need to make sense of it all. Always looking for an outlet to express this in-between space. I'm gonna eventually come to like label it. I'm gonna come up with a name for this in-between space eventually. I just haven't gotten there yet, but we'll just keep calling it the in-between. I actually left a year before ISIS invaded like a nearby city. Yeah, so I was there a year before that happened. But when I went back in 2016, ISIS was like 40 minutes away from where I was living. So, and then, there's one of my favorite artists, Kurdish contemporary artists named Hiwa K. He, in an interview with Art 21, he says, like, being Kurdish, he's like, it's because we don't have a country, it's like it's formless, we are formless. We are just constantly, we're like cut into all these different pieces. It's definitely this like, it's a fragmented state, physically, politically, mentally, it's just very fragmented, which I think is also something very beautiful about like how like years and years of centuries of assimilation and displacement, that Kurds still are very like resilient. We've held on to our identity, and we've held on to our culture, our language, and through all of it. I think collage, I look at I just feel like I work in collage a lot. whether it's collaging with rugs, collaging with the paper, collaging, even like, I feel like it's just employing, kind of reflecting on this fragmented state, and keep, nothing really seems unfinished. Even like the history, like I have like this quilt, this somewhat of like a history quilt that I've been working on, and I don't think it'll ever be finished. I've like left the borders open where I'm just gonna constantly, it's just gonna be like a lifelong thing where I'm just constantly adding on to this quilt. Even like the podcast that I started with my best friend from Kurdistan that I met when I was in school there. It's called The New Wave. I look at that as like a collage too, it's just kind of fitting in all the pieces together. We're like kind of trying to bring together this diasporic state. We're trying to bring together all the different Kurds from all over the world, and just have a conversation. And it's very relaxed and unscripted. When was it? Oh man, when I was in elementary school here in the States, my middle name, M, it's Nuveen Barwari, and the M is my dad's name, Muhammad. And I used to tell people and my friends that the M actually stood for Madison. My middle name is not Madison. Oh my goodness, poor little Nuveen thought, but that's something that, like, growing up in the States and outside of, in Kurdistan, outside of Kurdistan and outside of your homeland, I think that's something that a lot of people, members of these diasporic communities go through, is like this trying to fit in, it's this and it's that, and it can become something else. It makes something new, and I think it comes back to this idea of this place of, like, yeah, I'm able to create a new space. I'm able to create a new language. I'm able to create a new identity for myself. I'm able to create through all these different, practices. So, yeah. And then also it's like, I really like working in like domestic settings, even creating these domestic settings. I feel like, a lot of the objects that you'll see, they're just kind of like, where does this belong? I don't, it's strange, but there's also truth in it. It's like, no, this is a rug, and you associate a rug with, being in someone's home, being on the ground. But then I can also manipulate it and turn it into something else. If I can provide a space for someone to come into these like installations that I create, and if I can provide a sense of peace for them, even if it's temporary, even if it's just for 30 minutes, an hour, 10 minutes, if they can walk away feeling hopeful for the future, or feel like they belong, or like they're understood, and like that they're not alone, then that is enough for me. I think that I'm making and I'm creating these spaces because, like, there's lack of representation. Like, even for like, growing up, I didn't go to art galleries and museums, and like, I didn't see work I could really relate to. And just being able to like put the work out there, and other people, a lot of the work that I put out there, I'm just kind of like, this is not even for me anymore. This is for, I know there's so many other people that are going to like benefit from it, and they're going to be able to be like, oh, great. Like, I'm not the only one that feels this way. I'm not the only one who, is dealing with this. So if it can do that, then I mean, that's enough for now.